What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the recently released Shadow Malamar in the Open Great League. However, instead of Superpower, I'm running it with Hyper Beam, which produced some pretty insane moments. Now to round out the team, I've gone with two very bulky picks in Shadow Haunter and Low Kicks, so that I could just save my shields for the Shadow Malamar, as this is a Malamar showcase. Now just to remind you guys, it is currently the Go Battle Week, which means I'm hosting the Battle of Spice, a competition where the aim is to win in the Go Battle League with the spiciest and most unique team you can possibly put together. Now there is no elo requirement for this, so don't worry if you've not battled much this season. The Battle of Spice is all about having fun and using Pokemon that usually never see any play in the Go Battle League. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favorite Shadow Pokemon that you like to run with an unexpected nuke charge move? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, and we see a huge core breaker to the team. Honestly, Wigglytuff's usage has sort of fallen off a cliff recently, which I'm very happy with, but unfortunately, we are seeing it in the lead here. So I'm going to stay in with the Shadow Haunter. I am resisting the charm damage. You wouldn't know that looking at the damage we're taking here, but I can reach back-to-back ice punches, and really, I need this to go through, and the opponent does let that go through there. So, of course, grab the shield advantage. I'm going to come in with my Malamar, as at least I can apply quite a lot of fast move pressure with these side waves. Of course, definitely going to shield. The opponent fires off the Icy Wind, and I'm just barely able to sidewave farm them down. Now the opponent's going to come in with a Gastrodon, and there is no way they expect a Hyper Beam here. I'm already debuffed, and Hyper Beam still does huge damage. We swap into Low Kicks, and Low Kicks core breaks their back line as they've got a Shadow Drifblim in the bag. And now this is game over. After landing the Hyper Beam, we can fire off the Trailblaze, grab the final shield, and of course I can just safely shield this up here. Icy Wind shouldn't be enough damage to get the KO, but it doesn't really matter. I can now reach an X-Scissor, could have gone for the Trailblaze. Either, doesn't really matter. We get the KO up against the Gastrodon, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there into next battle, Shadow Haunter into a Charger Bug. So this is a okay-ish matchup for us. I'm going to stay in this matchup initially. I might try and catch a charge move, but it depends if the opponent does want to shield our Shadow Punch. I'm going to go for one Shadow Claw, fire off the Shadow Punch here, and Shadow Punch is going to be no shielded. It does huge damage, and they come in with a Swallow. So at this point, I'm going to go straight for Shadow Punch number 2, and that does quite a lot of damage. We can now come in with the Shadow Malamar. And at this point, I might be able to commit no shields and go for a full sideway farm down, especially if they go for Ice Beam. We can definitely commit to that farm down. Otherwise, it might have been a little bit close if they went for Sludge there. But either way, it doesn't really matter. We get that farm down, and they come in with their own Malamar. Now, they've still got 2 shields. I do expect a shield here, so I'm going to go for a Foul Play bait, but my aim is certainly to throw a Hyper Beam. So we're going to shield this, as the opponent is going to fire a Foul Play of their own. I'm now farmed up to very close to 100 energy. Going to fire off another Foul Play here. Foul Play, going to grab the final shield, and of course I could have just saved my shields for the Low Kicks, would have been very comfortable, but I do want to land that Hyper Beam. I catch the charge move onto Low Kicks, the opponent gonna try and make a catch onto Charger Bug, and they realize instantly that it's gonna be game over as I'm running X-Scissor, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's top on there, unfortunately not able to land the Hyper Beam in that battle, but into the next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Quagsire in the lead, and they stay in, they farm up 2-7, so I'm actually going to shield this, expecting a Stone Edge, and they full send it. They now swap into a Drapion, and this is where Hyper Beam going to come in clutch. Hyper Beam nearly gets the one shot. We actually get the sideway farm down there, which is huge for me, as they did just reach enough energy for an Aqua Tail, but they're going to come in with a Talonflame. Talonflame, a little bit tricky for me, especially since we got Low Kicks in the back, and despite what I said in the intro, I was actually joking. Shadow Haunter and Low Kicks are not bulky whatsoever. So unfortunately, we're going to go for back-to-back foul plays here. And then I'm going to swap into my Shadow Haunter, force the opponent to throw here. And honestly, this is a bit of a mistake. I was hoping the opponent might just go for a slight over farm, but of course, they're just going to throw straight away. The opponent's going to fire off another Fly. Fly gets the KO there. And yeah, unfortunately, Low Kicks will be outpaced to the next charge move, as they do go for Fly rather than going for a Flame Charge. And of course, Fly, super effective up against the Low Kicks. It gets the KO there, and the opponent can swap back into Quagsire. And despite landing the Hyper Beam, unfortunately not able to take that game. But into the next battle, we can see a Alolan Sandslash in the lead. Wasn't sure what fast move they'd be on, so I swap into Malamar, and I'm met with an Azumarill. But we've got a huge energy advantage. I'm going straight for Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam going to connect. It does big damage there, and that might actually put them into perfect sideway farm down. It's going to be close. The opponent does bait with an Ice Beam, but let's see Malamar going for the farm down, and it gets that perfect farm down, coming out with a second Hyper Beam loaded. Of course, I'm not going to throw that into whatever comes in. I will see that's going to be a Shadow Sableye, so I'm very glad I didn't go for the Hyper Beam there. But either way, we go for back-to-back foul plays. I'm now going to swap into my low kicks, and we've got them to the point where I can probably just no-shield this, of course, whatever they throw, whether it's a Power Gem or a Dazzling Gleam, it would get the one shot. But now we can come in with the Shadow Haunter. We do have to be wary, of course, that Sand Slash did leave with energy. I believe they are one away from back-to-back charge moves, so they're going to go for an Ice Punch there. I'm firing off the Shadow Punch, and then I will try to catch an Ice Punch onto my Malamar, and the opponent actually lets that go through, and that is huge for me. My switch clock just coming up in time. Ice Punch gets the KO there, but now we can just come in, Shadow Claw, farm down both the Sand Slash and the Sableye, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG Turbo there into the next battle. We see a Clodsire in the lead, so a great lead matchup for the Haunter. The opponent's going to say swap into a Feraligatr, and I'm just going to stay in, fire off that Shadow Punch immediately. And Shadow Punch is not respected. It gets the one shot. They now come in with a Fire, and I can swap into my Low Kicks, of course. Low Kicks going to resist the Sucker Punch damage here. They fire off the Swift. That's okay with me. I'm firing off a Trailblaze. I expect a shield here, and even if they no shield, it's pretty much game over already. The opponent is going to shield. They will have to fire off a Charge Move to get rid of us, though, and that's fine with me. The opponent fires off the Swift. I'm going to come in with my Malamar, and the opponent swapping instantly into Clodsire. This is just going to be a Sludge Bomb, so actually going to no-shield this, bank the energy, come in with the Shadow Haunter, and I'm not going to throw straight away. What I want to do is farm up to at least back-to-back charge moves here, because of course, one charge move will get the KO up against the Clodsire, and then I will have an Ice Punch for the Ferret coming back in. The opponent going to let that go through. We've got back-to-back moves here. We fire off the Ice Punch here, and Ice Punch is going to connect. It gets the KO, and we're able to take that game. So, GG Turbo there into next battle. Shadow Drapion in the lead, so a little bit awkward for me, but of course I am resisting the Poison Sting damage. Gonna go straight for an Ice Punch, and even though this is non-stab and neutral damage, it does so much damage there. Unfortunately, not quite enough to actually put them into Shadow Claw farm down range, but I'm gonna shield. They go for an Aqua Tail, so I'm gonna bank some energy swap into my Malamar there and catch the charge move. The opponent full sends the Crunch this time around before swapping into Azumarill. Now, this is really awkward for me. As you've seen already, Hyper Beam is not enough damage to get the one shot. But not only that, because they put me into perfect farm down range here, this is so awkward because they're going to have so much energy. I'm going to come in with my Shadow Haunter, I do believe, but unfortunately, we're not even going to be able to tank an Ice Beam here. So the opponent goes for Ice Beam. It gets the KO. We come in with the Low Kicks. This should just be another Ice Beam, so I am forced to no-shield this. But unfortunately, they've got Dugong in the back, and there's just nothing we can do here. I'm going to go for a Trailblaze. My only win condition is, for whatever reason, if the opponent no-shields. But they do just safely shield that up. I can fire off another charge move, but I'm just going to waste my own time there. So, of course, committing to the farm down, the opponent is able to take that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. We see a Dusclops in the lead. The opponent's going to say swap into Shadow Feraligatr. So once again, staying in with the Haunter. I realize I'm going to take quite a lot of damage, regardless of which Pokemon we're facing. So I might as well just stay in, grab a shield there, going to come in with my Low Kicks, and I'm going to no-shield the first move. But Hydro Cannon does so much damage, more damage than I was expecting. I could have thrown on CMP, but I realized winning switch advantage doesn't really help me that much. Anyways, Haunter already fairly low, so I might as well just fully sacrifice it. Come in with the Malamar, and let's see what Malamar can do. The opponent comes in with their own Malamar, so of course, we are going to shield the first charge move. They will throw just before I reach a Hyper Beam, but I do not expect a shield from the opponent. So now, gonna overfarm, full sending the Hyper Beam. Do they respect it? They absolutely do not. Unfortunately, they live with 1 HP and a Dream, but it doesn't really matter at this point. They are not going to reach another charge move. I can just safely shield up the first charge move here as they go for a Shadow Punch. Unfortunately, Foul Play, not quite enough damage to get the KO, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Foul Play is going to connect. I'm waiting for the opponent to throw a charge move. They're not quite at back-to-back here. So, of course, Shadow Punch does connect. We get the snipe with the Shadow Haunter, and I'm able to Shadow Claw, farm down the Malamar, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Malamar in the lead this time around. So, say swapping into my own Malamar, and the opponent is going to be able to outpace me, of course. I'm going to no-shield the first charge move here, and the opponent does go straight for a foul play. I'm then going to throw straight away, hoping to win CMP, and I do win CMP. I'm full sending the Hyper Beam. But unfortunately, they actually end up shielding that. I really did not expect this at all, and this is quite a huge setback for me. I'm just going to have to let the Malamar go down there. Of course, Low Kick's still a great matchup up against the Malamar, but the opponent swaps into into a Dugong. Now, I make a pretty huge mistake here. I could have thrown the Trailblaze straight away before they debuffed me, but I thought low kicks, very attack weighted, I'd be able to go for a Trailblaze here and then still commit to a full farm down. So we're going to go for that Trailblaze, but now you can see that just does not do enough damage, and as a result, forced to throw a second charge move. Yes, of course, I didn't have to go for Trailblaze this time around, but that is definitely a huge mistake on my end. What I could have done, thrown straight away, I could have committed to a full farm down, and I could have come out with so much energy, but now I'm forced to throw on CMP, winning CMP, but it just depends what they've got in the back. They go for superpower, and unfortunately, it's Diggersby in the back, so I tried to catch a fire punch there, doesn't work out for me, and as a result, I realized there's nothing I can do anymore, and so I just concede the match. But GG's up on there into the next battle. See Credilli in the lead now. I typically don't try to throw on poor timing, but up against Credilli, they're just going to go straight for a Rock Tomb anyway, so I might as well throw it immediately there. Otherwise, they will be able to throw a Rock Tomb before I can throw an Ice Punch if I try to commit to good timing. But anyways, the opponent comes in with a Mana Buzz. This is actually really tricky for the entire team. I honestly had not really thought about Mana Buzz when putting this team together, but if the opponent does not expect a Hyper Beam here, then we could be in with a chance. And Hyper Beam gets the KO. The opponent thinking, well, I'm going to farm up 2 back-to-back superpowers there, and as a result, they don't throw any energy whatsoever, and this is huge for me. The opponent comes back in with Credilli. They go for a Rock Tomb there. I'm going to go straight for Foul Play. Foul Play is going to connect, and of course, we're going to swap into Haunter. Unfortunately, they've got Claydol in the back, and that's what might cost me here. If they can get to back-to-back Rock Tombs, it's going to be super close. But we come in with the low kicks, and the opponent isn't going to throw on the best timing there. I don't really know what happened there, but either way, I'm going to shield as they go for a Rock Tomb. I'm actually not going to bother throwing a charge move at all. We get the full farm down, and I realize I could commit to a farm down here, but just in case they somehow reach a charge move, I'm just going to fire off the X-Scissor. X-Scissor going to be no shielded as we had back-to-back moves, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Shadow Drapion in the lead. So, of course, this is another matchup. We've seen this already where Ice Punch, even though it's non-stab, neutral damage, it does so much damage there. And, of course, I am resisting the Poison Sting damage. So, if I shield this up, I'm actually not going to take that much damage. I will eventually swap into my Shadow Malamar to catch the charge move. Once again, unfortunately, just barely not putting them into farm down range, but we tank the crunch. They come in with for Alligator, and I'm not going to throw straight away. Instead, just force the opponent to throw their energy immediately as they fire off the Hydro Cannon. Now, this is quite awkward for me. We are going to come in with our low kicks, and unfortunately, because this is a non-Shadow for Alligator, I can't just commit one shield and go for a full Sucker Punch farm down. I will be forced to throw a charge move here, so I'm going to throw a Trailblaze at the last possible second, just before they do reach a second Hydro Cannon. Trailblaze gonna be shielded here by the opponent. So this point, of course, Hydro Cannon, we've seen this already, gonna do quite a lot of damage here, but I can commit to a farm down, but they swap into Credilli. So at this point, firing off the X-Scissor. X-Scissor going to grab the final shield. I can throw an Ice Punch on the CMP type, but I need this to get the KO. Ice Punch just barely doesn't do it for me, and the opponent will reach a Rock Tomb. Of course, Rock Tomb going to get the KO up against the very glassy Shadow Haunter. We can commit to a farm down, but of course, they can come in with the Drapion. One single Poison Sting gets the farm down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Credilli in the lead once again. So once again, going to go straight for that Ice Punch here. Ice Punch should be grabbing a shield. Otherwise, we've seen already, it does big damage. So at this point, I'm just going to commit one shield and then go for a full farm down. Shadow Haunter, even when it's debuffed, is going to do quite a lot of damage, but I'm going to bank the energy, swap into my Malamar, and the opponent comes in with a Blastoise. Now, honestly, I expect the opponent to probably shield one of these charge moves. I could have committed to the Hyper Beam, but they do shield that first move anyways. Of course, Shadow Malamar, a new Shadow. A lot of people just maybe a little bit wary of how much damage it can deal here. So sometimes I would full send a Hyper Beam and it would be shielded, not because they were expecting it, but just because the opponent wasn't really sure how much damage a Foul Play would do from that Shadow Malamar. But either way, it doesn't really matter. I can come in with the low kicks, and I don't mind just shielding this charge move here. As of course, Claydol, I think we've already got a Shadow Punch loaded, so it doesn't really matter if they come back in with the Claydol, and they do outpace the low kicks here. We go boost up our attack. The opponent does reach a Rock Tomb, but of course Rock Tomb gonna get the KO. We can come back in with the Shadow Haunter, fire off one Shadow Claw, go for the Shadow Punch on good timing, and Shadow Punch easily gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We're going to see Shadow Haunter into Shadow Jumpluff. So this is a bit of an awkward matchup here if they are an Aerial Ace, because Aerial Ace, whilst it's not the best move, it is pretty much going to one-shot a Shadow Haunter. But we go for Ice Punch, we throw on the CMP tie with a potential Acrobatics, and the opponent is going to actually full send the Acrobatics there. So possibly on Acrobatics and Energy Ball, which means I will comfortably outpace them to the next charge route as well. We fire off the Ice Punch there. Ice Punch grabs the final shield. And now I'm just going to double shield as well here. They must be weak to the Shadow Haunter in the back. So now I'm going to overfarm. I actually don't overfarm that much, but I have definitely put them into range where I can just go for a Shadow Punch. So Shadow Punch gets the KO there, and they come in with a Dugong. So I'm going straight for Shadow Punch once again, and then I will actually save swap into my Malamar. Now, unfortunately, they have thrown 2 Ice Shards already, so they will just barely outpace me to that charge move here. They can go for an Icy Wind, debuffing my attack. They come in with a Zoomer, and now, unfortunately, that debuff is going to be costly for me, as Hyper Beam, we've already seen, doesn't get the KO, but now that does barely over half their HP. I'm committing to another Hyper Beam, but the opponent does eventually throw their energy. At this point, I feel like Shadow Haunter should be able to reach a charge move before they fully bubble farm me down. So I'm just going to come in with a Haunter, force them to throw a charge move, but no, that is not the case. They can fully bubble farm me down, and that is a huge mistake. Now they come out with the Play Rough loaded. Play Rough doesn't quite get the one shot, but they can come in, get the Ice Shard farm down with the Dugong, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on their into next battle, another Credilli in the lead, this time a Shadow. They're going to say swap into a Shadow Blastoise, and because they swap out there, they are 1 turn behind. I can go for 6 Shadow Claws and throw a Shadow Punch, and that is going to be good timing. Now at this point, I'm definitely just going to match shields in this matchup. We can outpace them pretty comfortably as well. We're going to go for the next charge move straight away, firing off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch going to be no shielded, and they come in with a Talonflame, so this is a little bit tricky for me. I do swap out immediately, otherwise I realize Shadow Haunter might grab a shield from the Talonflame, but they will just fully farm me down. At this point, I'm definitely going to shield this. They are 1 away from the next charge move. I should just barely outpace them to that move, so they swap back into Credilli, and this is perfectly fine with me, of course. Not running superpower, so a foul play, definitely not enough damage to get the KO. However, all I need to do is get a charge move on my Shadow Haunter. Low kicks, pretty irrelevant for this battle. We're committing to the full farm down. If we didn't quite get it, I would have tried to catch the charge move there, but it doesn't really matter. We do get that farm down. Shadow Punch would be taking out the Talonflame, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We can see a Unova Stunfisk in the lead. I'm going to go and fire off the Ice Punch here. Ice Punch is able to grab a shield. I'm now swapping into my Malamar, and the opponent responds with a Galissapod. So this time, I'm just going straight for Foul Play here. Foul Play is going to connect, and you can see that does respectable damage. If the opponent is on Exeter, it doesn't really matter, as now I can just safely shield that up, and then go for a full sideway farm down. Now, I'm expecting the opponent to come back in with Unova Stunfisk. I should be able to tank any one charge move, and I am absolutely committing to the Hyper Beam here. The opponent fires off the Mud Bomb, but unfortunately they're at back-to-back charge moves already. I didn't realize that was the case, otherwise might have thrown a foul play there, but either way, doesn't really matter. We do go down, but now we can come in with the low kicks. Low kicks, of course, are going to take resisted damage from the Mud Bomb. They're forced to go for Discharge, but Discharge just not going to do that much damage here. So Discharge is going to connect. It does get me into the yellow health range, but I'm going to fire off a Trailblaze on CMP, winning CMP here. Trailblaze going to get the KO, and they come in with a Shadow Abomasnow, so I can go straight for the Exeter, and then all I have to do is swap into my Shadow Haunter. Now, even if they are on Icy Wind and debuff my attack, it's not going to matter in this situation. Shadow Haunter just hits so incredibly hard. We can just safely shield that up, fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. We're going to see a Digger's Beat in the lead. So, if they are on Quick Attack, which most of them are, this is actually not that bad of a matchup for me. You can see, even though we are double resisting it, these Quick Attacks are still chunking a little bit here, but we can go for the Ice Punch. 2 Ice Punches, definitely get the KO here. I'm definitely going to shoot as well. The opponent does not bait. They full send the Scorching Sands. So now I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Ice Punch, and then I will swap out straight away, assuming they shield this, into my Shadow Malamar. Now the opponent once again goes straight for Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to debuff my attack, but I am able to outpace them to the Foul Play. I'm actually going to throw on the CMP tie with a Fire Punch, and Foul Play gets the KO. They come in with their own Malamar. So once again, I'm going to commit to the Hyper Beam, or just force the opponent to throw their energy pretty much straight away, and they do just go straight for that Foul Play. We can come in with the low kicks, and this is a pretty comfortable matchup for me. Although I am going to shield this at the last second. I don't really know why I shielded there, and that is a huge mistake because why on earth did I shield there? Now they come in with a Primeape, and of course I can't swap into my Shadow Haunter as a Rage Fist is easily going to one-shot us. The opponent is forced to go for a close combat, but it just doesn't really matter. Now we can come in with the Shadow Haunter, we get the farm down, but they can just Psywave, farm down the Shadow Haunter, and I make a pretty huge mistake there, shielding up my low kicks, and as a result we do lose that game. But GG to opponent into the next battle, another Credilli in the lead. So once again, going straight for that Ice Punch here. Want to guarantee I throw this before they can debuff my attack. And again, they no shield. So at this point, definitely just going to shield the Haunter. I will be debuffed, but I've got switch advantage here. And the opponent does just allow the Credilli to be farmed down. Come in with a Kanto Marowak, but non-Shadow. So I can actually let this Bone Club go through. It's not going to do too much damage, and I don't believe they will be able to fully Mud-Slap farm it down. So instead, they swap into our Blastoise. And again, I could have gone for Hyper Beam here. This time, they do actually no-shield this, but I feel like it doesn't really make a difference here as two foul plays. I'm going to do quite a lot of damage anyways. I actually undercharge that just in case they no-shield and then just commit both shields into their Marowak, but the opponent does shield that up there. We can come back in with the Shadow Haunter. I'm just going to bank this energy and then swap into my low kicks. Now, low kicks, of course, up against a non-Shadow Kanto Marowak, should be able to tank a Rock Slide reasonably comfortably to the point where they won't be able to farm me down, or at least not before we do reach a charge move here. And then at this point, this is going to be game over, of course. Trailblaze, going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and I do have a charge move banked on the Haunter, so as long as I'm able to touch the button there, go for the Ice Punch, I'm going to be able to win the game, taking out the Marowak, getting the Shadow Claw farm down, and I am able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.